Hi, and welcome to the Thinking Out Loud podcast, a show with meaningful conversations in English with non native speakers. My name is Jedrek,
My name is Masha.
and we are two English teachers who.
Was super tired, unhinged, whatever today. So please excuse us if it's not
Exactly,
the best
Sorry,
podcast
guys.
ever.
Yeah, sorry, guys. We are making let's say, blunders because we are tired. Why are we tired? Masha, why are you tired?
I live in Ukraine.
You live in Ukraine, and that's enough. And that's enough to be
I'm
tired.
living in Kiev now. That's
All
pretty
right, you
much,
came back. You came back from the countryside to the capital city. Well, tell us a little bit about the situation. Come on, people are dying for. I mean,
well, that's
people are dying
pun
to
not
know.
intended. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
I don't think people, there's been this mm, I don't want to call it a fight, but mm, a misunderstanding uh, between. So I don't know how much people in Poland, let's say, want to know about
Ah,
this.
yeah. You all right? Yeah, of course. I'm reading the
You
news
didn't have
from
time
time to
to.
time, and I heard there's some spat about the grain being
Yeah, yeah.
transported or something. So there's yeah, that's true. And I must tell you, Masha, that I spoke with several people. Now, I was, by the way, guys, I was in Poland over for the weekend, and yeah, people kind of feel tired, with Ukraine and the help. And then right now there is apparently some kind of a conflict regarding the as far as I'm aware, agricultural products that Poland is blocking. Um, what you must know, Masha, is that we are not in the middle, but in the peak, the
Of
highest point of the election
campaign.
campaign.
Hmm.
So you'll
And that
have, I mean,
explains
I'm
basically
kind of
everything.
I'm kind of expecting things to solve themselves
Yeah,
magically in two
yeah.
weeks time or 3 weeks
That's
time from
that's the
now.
hope. Yeah.
So yeah, okay,
Okay.
but
And why are
you're
you
back.
tired?
Well, I'm tired because yeah, I was back in Poland. I attended a wedding party.
Oh, come on. And now you
My
feel
brother's
tired. How
my
dare you?
brother's wedding party. Yeah.
Oh,
And
congratulations.
yes, and we came back yesterday, or literally today at 2 a.m. So imagine, I'm kind of dizzy still. Yeah, but other than that, everything's fine. The wedding party was great. And you can imagine how much I drunk. No, I'm kidding. I mean, I was still
So
walking,
you
but
have all only good reasons to be
yeah,
tired.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, Masha, before we introduce our today's guest, and hopefully have a wonderful conversation, how about you telling us a little bit about life in Kiev? I mean, I'm curious. Like, personally, I'm curious.
Well, it's surprisingly it's pretty vibrant during the day,
Mm-hmm.
and people just go about their life pretty much as normal.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but nights are, nights
But
are.
wait, there are still the curfews
Yeah, we
in the
still
night.
have the curfew, yeah, from
All
midnight
right.
till 5. And it's
All right.
interesting, at 5, because after the countryside, when it's, so quiet, you kind of it's like that, 5 o'clock, and everything goes back to life. Cars start
Amazing.
running, and oh, it's like in a movie, a cartoon.
All right. All
Yeah.
right.
So the nights are the most difficult because the
And
attacks happen during the night.
I know, I think I asked you before privately, but what about electricity? What about gas? I don't know, that kind of things. Are you
Well,
concerned?
right now we are concerned, of course, because that's
Hmm.
what everybody's talking about. Prepare, winter is coming, and it's going to be.
Yeah.
Oh, come on! Everybody says it's going to be worse, but why should it? I mean, I think I think it's not going to be worse than the last winter, just because, I mean, people say that, yeah, we are entering this winter with our system already, you know, damaged. I don't know how damaged, of
Yeah,
course,
yeah.
but on the other hand, we are much better prepared, both, you know, in terms of generators and stuff, as well as mentally, you know, we are much better
Yeah,
prepared.
materially, and I'm not sure about, I mean, mental preparedness for sure. You know, kind of what to expect, but then there's also the fatigue maybe that
No,
may
but
set
that's
in at one
important, you
point.
know, because you
Yeah.
understand. I couldn't imagine, you know, can you imagine a big city, totally dark?
Mhm.
I mean, just not to mention driving is very
Mhm.
difficult, but just you look around and you're not used to, you're used to seeing lights everywhere and it's
Yeah.
dark.
Yeah. 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 It must be totally
It's
weird.
very depressing.
Mhm.
But now you know that yes, it's going to be like that, and it's going to be only for this, you know, amount of time. I think it means a lot, you know, being prepared like that.
All right. All right. Fine. Well, I can't wait, you know, to visit Kiev one day, when it's over. However, I don't know, the horizon doesn't look like anything but clear, right? I don't know when
You can come now. I mean,
I could,
we'll
yeah.
live here. And many people, you know, there is this. I don't know how to call it. Maybe it's beauty tourism or medical tourism. When people who left, they find these services extremely expensive and, to be honest, not such good quality. And they come to Ukraine for a week, and they do, you know, they go to their dentists, cosmetologists, you name it, you know, and then they go back. So you can do the same.
Yeah, exactly. You know, but I wonder honestly about the so-called war tourism. You know, if there is something like that. You know, there are actually, you know, foreigners flocking to Kiev just to, you know,
Yes.
just to experience.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
All right, great. Fine. So, Masha, thanks a lot for the updates. A few words about our guest. Krzysiek is his name, or Chris, that would be in the English-speaking world. And I don't know much about him, except that he's an IT guy who's totally mad about history. And it's kind of, you know, it's kind of strange because IT and history don't always rhyme. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, there's his passion. I wonder if IT is his passion. I think we may want to ask him that. And I know Krzysiek from the famous or infamous Twitter or X, you name it. And we also met once
Twitter.
online. Online. All
Mhm.
right, great. So, ladies and gentlemen, Krzysiek is here. Let's say hi. All right. Krzysiek, I'm extremely happy that you are here.
Thank you. I'm also happy.
All right, that we managed to meet. You don't know each other, so Masha, this is Krzysiek, and Krzysiek, this is Masha.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Masha.
All right, great. Great. Krzysiek, I was trying to make an introduction, you know, to introduce you, but it's not like I know you a lot. I know you a little bit from Twitter, and
Yep.
I know you a little bit from your blog. You are
Yeah.
you are an interesting person because you know, on the one hand, as far as I can tell, you are an IT guy,
That's right.
and you own a company, right? But on the other
Yeah.
side, you are totally into history, and especially the history of the Second World War. So,
That's right.
how do you manage to combine these two extremes?
Maybe I surprise you. It's not only that those two things, because on one hand, exactly, I am co-owner of the software house, and I spend for about 14 years of my life in workflow on document management systems, and that's my, that's the thing who I do for money. I'm not a programmer. I didn't graduate study in that direction. I just learned by myself, because I started like a salesman, and I don't know a lot. 14 years ago, I don't know a lot about the IT stuff. I know how I can turn on the computer, how I can install the game, and how I can restart it. And for me, the biggest achievement was connecting a LAN network from my brother computer, when we can, and then we could play each other, and that was a great IT achievement. After that, I have a lot of experience with the sales, and 14 years ago, my friend Albert Jarko, Albert from Twitter also.
I know him from Twitter, yes.
That was my first supervisor in this company. And after 3 months, when I cannot get any presentation, because I was a salesman in the company who sold big software to the big companies, banks, insurance companies, and all stuff like that. And he have a really big question about me. Chris, could you, I don't know that you should stay here or not. Maybe I risk. And, that was 3 months when I get one presentation. And after that, in the next 2 years, I made almost 400. So he said, okay, that was a good decision. But that was my start in the IT. Because I don't have a driving license in that time, there was a problem how I can get to these old cities, and I always use trains. So I had a lot of time to do something. Of course, I read something, I listen to music in that time. But after a few months, I decided to learn a programming language.
And wait a second. So you mean that you were learning that
on the train?
On
the trains, yeah. That,
all right.
I love
Amazing.
the trains, and I spent a lot of time to travel all across the Poland, and you had a lot of time in that situation, so you can decide.
Yeah, especially knowing the Polish train system.
Now I almost wish I didn't have my driving license,
You see, Masha?
Even when I get this driving license, for a few months later, I didn't decide to drive the car.
You were already too much addicted to trains.
I was addicted. Yeah, I think it's very good. Very cool. Very good. Sentence. Yeah.
All right. So to sum it up,
this part about the IT, and then I changed the one job and go to the Gdańsk, because went to Gdańsk because my wife decided where we can live. Maybe Gdańsk will be the best option, and that was the best option. And we buy both apartment and start our life together in Gdańsk. And after a few years, I made my own company, and the second co-owner joined to me, and we start working with that. After that decision, that was 2 years when I wake up every day and I ask myself why I do that, why I didn't stay on the permanent position on some company, why I did that. But finally, that was a very good decision, and now we made some pro bono stuff, IT stuff, and the first that solution in Poland was not sell it, you can use it for free. And that was my big dreaming. When I was addicted to the trains, I was thinking a lot of time about this free software to workflow, to document management systems, to make all the stuff, but for free, for small companies, for societies, and all stuff like that. So that was the first thing I did, who I do still. And the second thing, of course, is history, and it was a big topic for me. So maybe we
So when did that start actually, and how did it persist? How did you persist? Because learning IT and reading about history, was that... were the trains really so slow?
In Poland, in that time, was slow. Now you cannot do that in this reality.
Now you have only time for only one subject.
But about the history, my interesting about the history was started when I was very young. I started reading very soon, and I have I don't know, 4 years old, and I start interesting about the history because my father was a soldier, and we lived very near about the garrison. So that was, the garrison was in the other part of the street. So I saw the garrison every day. There was a lot of fun for kids. I have 2 brothers, so and we the settlement where we lived in that time, there was a settlement with all kids, was soldiers' sons or people who work in the garrison. So there's a lot of opportunity to fight.
So this is where the inspiration came from.
That was. But in my home, there was a lot of books, in history books, and there is a funny one thing who I really good remember now, because when the weekends came, the parents go to the really often went to the parties in this garrison. There was a parties for the officer or under officer or stuff like that, and you have 3 kids, small kids, and somebody need to look about these kids, but everybody go to the party. So the soldiers in the Poland in that time, the young men was obligated to go to the army for 2 years. And although these soldiers who was have a good behavior in the week, have that something like I don't know, award. You can go and look about the kids of the officers and the officers.
What kind of reward is that for good behavior?
That is very good, because you went to somebody home, and you don't was on the garrison. You don't sleep with 10 other people. You can
in the room,
in the beds. You can eat in that time good food. That was a word. That was a word.
And the kids, Masha, you know what? I mean, you let them go.
Obligation. What's your obligation? Was obligation on that time? You was able. You need to able to manage these kids. And so you open the book, and start the reading for these kids. And
wow, I would just put on a cartoon or something and
no, in that time that was start about the 90s. Early 90s years.
Satellite TV, Masha, was really rare,
of course I remember that.
That was absolutely really rare in that time, and that soldiers have a really big issue with me, because I didn't took them a book for kids. I always took them a book, for example, The Storm on the Pacific, on the Second World War on the Pacific, and there was a really lot of English words. For example, the Battle of Guadalcanal. that poor soldier cannot read that Guadalcanal. What's this? Yeah? Because I cannot sleep well. I always went to sleep very, very late. There was, I think that was a trauma for that.
Those poor soldiers who got those kids, they were like, no, not those kids. Give us different kids, please, this time. Yeah,
but wait, Krzysiek.
I think so. Yeah, so that my interest about the history started, and then I was really good in history, but that was that history who you can get from the books and from the school, from the discussion with teachers and all stuff like that. And when I started learning about the IT, when I was young adult on the train, I left that history and said, okay, that was. I started studying history when I was 19, but I never go to the any exercises or.
But wait, you mean that you started university, like?
Yeah, in the Poznań. I started
all right.
Learning history on the university. I started studying, but I left it about a half year, and I cannot. I didn't show the perspective. I didn't show the perspective of this history, and now I regret very, very much, because there's a lot of things you can do with a history, and now for me, the history, it's not learning about the dates, about the names, about the places. It's not the history. The history is a tool, and for me now, I try to make that concept to the book and to the blog. I'm still working with that to start using history like an everyday tool, because the history can be everyday tool. Like in ancient Greek, you didn't use the history only for memory. There's just one of skills of the history, learning about the things who somebody made, or battles, or places, or civilization. No, the main I don't know how we can call the main target of the history. Yeah, it's using the history like a tool, because the history in the.
But wait, you mean like drawing some conclusions and not repeating the same mistakes? Is that what you mean?
Not only in present times, there's a very good tool for the young people who can use the history and knowledge about the history for fake news. There's a very, very good tool to fight with the fake news, because the history is there's a subject who can where you can learn things about the sources, how sources is important, how we can compare the sources, how we can make decision when you have a lot of sources, and how you can choose this source who is most probable for you, and then you make a decision. Because there is, of course, there's a Latin sentence, the historia magistra vitae. The history is a teacher of the life. But very often the histories reject that phrase. The history, because somebody made something different, and then if the Christoph Columbus have that sentence in the back of his head and said, "Historia magistra vitae," okay, the Europe, there is the end of the world. Okay, fine, but no, he didn't decide it. But what he did in that time, he take the sources, he take the knowledge, and he decide, okay, there is a chance to go to take other land, travel to the other land, and there's a big chance that after this big ocean, there's something is there, but there is no sentence about the history is teaching of your life, because the history said there is nothing there. There's only monsters and end of the world. That the history told the Christoph Columbus.
Yeah, except that later he actually made history, and now explore. I think exploring space, you may set off with this idea of Columbus exploring our planet, and yeah, it's interesting.
That's true. But I think the main achievement of the using history like a tool, it's made a clear view about the situation with making the situation is now. I think because you can get you get a lot more sources, more information in the one day that your grandpa had for a few years. Yes, so you can collect a lot of information now, and the history can be, if we start using history like a tool. In that use I explained before, you will have a simple decision-making process. Yeah, the process of making decision will be simple in that way. So that's my
great.
I have that idea that will be my opus magnum, my my main target with the using history, and I really think about the back to the studies and try to change a school program to do that. That's my dream. Yeah. So there's no one of the professors of the history in the first lection, he had said to us students, there's, for me, the better is the students who don't have a clearness about where in what exactly time was the battle, for example, on the, I don't know, Grunwald. Yeah, very important battle for Poland. Yeah, for me, the better student is that student who tell me maybe that was 1409, maybe 1410, maybe 1411, but he can explain what was impact.
Yeah, what was the battle about?
Yeah,
exactly. What were the consequences?
How that battle changed the history, and how you can what is the main information on now, on the present times we can get from the battle, from the Grunwald. Of course, the answer is you cannot stay on the full sun, on the full July sun for long, because you will be weak. Yeah, that is the most important thing. No, there's never mind how strong you are. If you stay on the sun for a few hours, you will be weaker. Yeah, so that's the main information you can get from the Battle of the Grunwald.
Even today we can apply this.
Yeah, and the present time, and for me that should be that's how we can teach a history, because for the people who are interested about the history, they spend a lot of time to checking the dates, to checking the names, to checking the places. But the people on the school can use the history like a math or like an English language. Yeah, there's it can be tool. And then you have only 1 hour history per every week. So if you will be interested about the history, that's fine. But
this is a very interesting point of view that you are presenting here, because I remember there was quite a commotion when I think the Polish government introduced the 2nd hour of history in the curriculum, like in a week. So now there's like 2, and people are like, what? We need IT classes. We need, this or that, languages, foreign languages. We don't need to learn about history. But if you shift your perspective, and if you look at history as exactly as a tool then I believe it's just as useful as whatever, you know, languages or IT. In fact, all right, Krzysiek, you want?
But
Yeah,
there is,
because you know, I was debating a little bit with Masha before we met. You know, what kind of question should we ask you? And there is one in our database that is about history.
Yeah.
And I'd like to know from you, or Masha, maybe you can ask.
Go ahead and ask.
All right. So the question is, how do you see the difference between history and the past? What's the difference?
I think the difference is the past is, for me, it's a collection of the facts. The past, yeah. So so the past is and the past is also, for me, it's a more like a feeling, yeah. The past is a more like a feeling. The past is something like we can say this is some kind of perspective that you have, and the past for any of us can be different, yeah. So the things who was made on the past can take about the yesterday and years ago, but still it's always connected to the feelings. It's connected to the emotion, the past, for me. The history is the history, like I said, for me is a tool, but in the common way of thinking, the history is a collection of the facts, collection of the perspective, yeah, because there's for me not exists something like a absolute history, like absolute math. You know, so if you say 2 + 2 is 4, okay, 2 + 2 is 4. In the history, it's not working like that, because the history is a collection of all of those facts, and you can look about these facts in the different perspective. Like I said.
So wait a second. So in fact, history is not a science, or is it?
No, history is a
we
science.
have this distinction
past,
between
science
and.
Yeah, it is a science. It is a science because when you learning about the history and you do that in a professional way, you need to get a lot of sources. You need to have a lot of relations. Sometimes the picture.
Yeah, I mean, there is a methodology that resembles the scientific, let's say, way of doing things.
But still, there are people who are fighting about the history. You know, they have different histories, let's say, and what's going on right now in my country, it's you know, it's a good example. So I mean, how is it science if two countries don't agree about the past, what happened?
I think that the history can be science when you use correct tools and correct perspective. What is a correct perspective to learning history? Trying to go in your mind to that time, trying to collect the information who was before something was happened, and after that you can make some conclusions and you can make your own decisions, and you can see that. And if you try to do that in that way, nothing is simple and nothing is clear, because there is a lot of perspective, a lot of people,
and that's what makes history kind of, you know, not really scientific in the sense, like, you know, it's not like biology or maths, but
there is more than like a psychology, I think. If you look,
exactly,
this is one of the topic why really interesting for I think, because my wife is a psychotherapist, and we have a lot of books, and I like learning about the Jung. Jung is my favorite one, about the law and working with the body. So
I had Krzysiek, and if time allows, I have a question about your wife, you know, but later, maybe later.
Maybe after program.
All right.
But she is absolutely magnificent, and she's absolutely outstanding, interesting person, and yeah.
That's why I wanted to ask. That's why I wanted to ask. But let's.
Yeah.
Coming back to, because I would like to just remember that this is a program also for learners. So let's introduce some structure here. I mean, going back to history and the past.
Yeah.
You say I love actually what you said about the past. It's more like a feeling. So I may feel right now in a certain way because of the past, right? I don't know exactly what makes me feel like that, but let's say that, if I was hurt in the past, like we know it that our childhood has a huge impact on who we are later on, right?
Of course.
So this is also this kind of, but again, we don't know exactly what happened. I'm a happy person because, for example, I was loved in the past, by my parents and so on, but you may also be unhappy because you never experienced this kind of feelings when you were young.
That's right.
And the same refers, I think the same for blabbing, but we could say the same about, for example, the national pride, right? I'm proud of being who I am, like of being a Polish person, or a French person,
or Ukrainian. Yes. That's correct.
But it's a feeling that comes from the past. That's but I don't know where from exactly, right? But it's just something that I got.
You need to remember that because we are human, and the genetics is really important for our structure, also in the brain structure, the genes. Yeah. So there is something like a memory of the genes was transformed for the one generation to the another, and I heard a very nice discussion one time. I think that the guy Hendricks, the psychologist and coach from the US, said that there's a very simple solution to the peace of the world. All of the nations should set, we are 100% responsibility for our history, and we have a 100% responsibility for resolve that. Because the people look about the history, about the conflicts with the nation, with the people, like that we have only 100% of responsibility. But there's not true. There's a 200% responsibility. The 100% of the one part and the 100% of second part. And I, in my common historical work, I try to figure out the things about the Second World War and the Polish chance to defeat, to say, defend themselves after German invasion and the Russian invasion after that. And there's a really painful part of our history, and really big questions how we can manage that. But if we look about the on the responsibility perspective, the same way on the Balkans, for example. I have a family in Serbia, and there's a lot of conflicts between Bosnia, Serbia, Croatia, Slovenia, and all stuff like that. And if you ask them, why are you still thinking about why we're still in conflict? You need to turn back to Kosovo Pole in 1389. So that was 700 years ago. So we still fight about the things who was happened 700 years ago. Yeah. And when I don't know if there are we are not. I think that we are not alone in the space. So if somebody go from space and landing on the Earth and ask why 700 years about the one thing, about the one battle, when you behave different than we, what the fuck?
But it's I would like
Yeah.
I'd like to clarify this concept of this 200% responsibility in any conflict. If you could maybe exactly clarify this, I don't know, based on, I don't know, the Israel-Palestine, or, I mean, what do you mean?
Of course.
Because what do you mean by being responsible for history? I mean, what's the responsibility of each side, and why would that actually lead to peace if everybody was, as you say, responsible for their history?
Okay, in my opinion, you know, about the conflicts, if we can say that, the conflict is a situation, when the two sides, in my opinion, of course, from one side try to be a victim and try to convince the second part that his is aggressor, 400% of aggressor. But that is not true. If you look about the history and if you look about the perspective, very good example is we don't need to look to the Middle East, to the Israel and Palestinian. We know that of course the homeland of the Israel was in Palestine, but in the same way we can decide that because we came from some part of Caucasian, because it's Caucasian race, so maybe now we transform all our people, our stuff, because we also was victims of the Second World War, and go to the Caucasian and said, of course, now we don't fit here. Okay, we know there is Armenians, others, Georgians, and Turkeys, and all stuff like that. But now we decide that this is our place. We convince the world that this is our place because 3,000 years ago we came from.
This is where we originated.
This is our motherland. It's truly motherland. No, this land on the Vistula and Odra and all stuff like that. No. We go there because we have a proof. We have a proof, and of course we cannot write it down in that time. We don't did that. But there is our land, and what now? For example, the same way the people who is now this person from Britannia, there is a cultural mix, but not cultural mix about the people from India, Bangladesh, Pakistan. No, there's a cultural mix. The people who came from Denmark, Netherlands, Germany, France, Norway. There's a mix of the people, and in that time, the same way, the British person can go to the Copenhagen and said, a lot of us came from here, 1,000 years ago. So if the British decide in that way, they will be full 100% responsible to make that I don't know, state or community in there, and they was responsible. They will be responsible for all the conflicts who started because they took something who was maybe in the historical way. This is a correct place for all British. Maybe all people in London should go to the Copenhagen. Maybe, you know, because history, it's really clear for that. The people came from that lands. The SAS, the Brits was in there. So they will be responsible for that. And the Denmarks and the people from now it's living in the Copenhagen.
But wait,
also responsible how they behave in the south, or they will be fight, or they will be accept that situation and all stuff like that. In the Israel, we had the same situation. So after the Second World War, there was a lot of ideas where we can put this Jewish nation. Maybe there, but you know, okay, the historical way is good, but there will be a lot of conflicts there because there is a lot of different cultures around this Jerusalem and all stuff like that for 1,000 years. And who should decide in that way how they will be, you know?
But I still don't get it. How do you avoid
where's the solution
conflict?
to peace?
Yeah.
Yeah, the solution. Yeah, because we can decide it about this Israel stuff in that kind of solution. If all those communities, so the Palestinian, the Jewish, there's a Jordania there, there's Syria and Egypt. Yeah, there's a lot of wars in that part of the world after the British and United Nation Organization decided that will be the state of the Jewish state, Israel, in there. So both things, if both sides get the responsibility for it, because why the Jewish don't go, for example, to the German, to the Poland, to the Russia? Why? It's very simple, because the cultures there, the structures there was too strong to assimilate them,
to accommodate.
Accommodate. That's correct. In that part, the Syria was a French protector after for the 30 years. After before that, the Ottoman Imperium, Turkey was the Syria was the part of the Ottoman Imperium. Yeah, so there wasn't something like a state. The people living there, I don't know, like we can say in Polish, we said tutejsi.
Natives, natives,
Natives, yeah, but natives in the same way like we have a people in Poland before Second World War. When you go to the terrain of our where now is Belarus, to the east, and you ask, you are Polish, you are Belarus, you are Russian?
You're right.
No,
you're
we
right.
are natives.
We are natives. Yeah,
that's all. That's all. The politics, the nations is on the same way it was in the Ukraine history, like in the 19th century, the Taras Shevchenko, for example. That was something who was bring inside the people who live there. The same thing is in Australia. What is Australia? That was a big prison. And that was a big prison, and that's it. I have family in Australia. Maybe I can talk about that. But now it's a proud nation. The proud nation who said we don't want a queen now. Yeah, we are adults. We don't want a queen.
Krzysiek, sorry. I would like to just see or check if my thinking is right, because where is this responsibility? Do you mean that we should all the nations should stay where they originally started?
They should stay. They should take
or they should actually reject responsibility.
Who they are now. So they need to take the responsibility for the place who are they now and try to live in. Yeah, so take this responsibility as said.
But do you know that it sometimes doesn't feel fair, because there was some political, like take Poland, for example. We were stripped of certain parts in the east, and then they added some parts in the west. And it may I'm not saying that today it feels like that's the things basically are like this, but sometimes it might feel simply not fair. And I know that several hundred years later you may still feel like, hey, it used to be our land.
Yeah, but as you see that,
and so because three guys like Stalin,
for example, people who live in Stettin or Wrocław or something like that. There was cities which are grown in the German with the German civilization, and this is a fact. We cannot decide. Earlier, the Wrocław was Czech city, and before that was Polish city, and before that was small village who was. Where some Silesian people live there. There's not there. But how I understand this responsibility? For me, I am absolutely 100% agree that the history, the war who started from the German, because there was a situation after First World War. The First World War started because this French and German conflicts are so strong, and there was a power. Yeah, there's this power issue. Yeah, who will be this Middle Europe, the main country, and I can understand the people who said we missed Szczecin. Szczecin was so beautiful where a German city. Okay, I took the responsibility. Yeah, 100 years ago that was a German city, and the Szczecin grew up because the German civilization, and that's a fact. I understand that, and I take responsibility for that. But I live here, and I decided to live here because now it's in Poland, and so I can hear the other people. I can see a different perspective. I can understand that. I don't need to take it by myself. The people very often think that if you agree with somebody, you took this point of view, and that's not true. You can see the other people, but you don't need to be in the same way of thinking like them. So for me, there's a 100% of responsibility because I can make something with that. So I can make the Szczecin open place for all the people who want to come there, and I can make a history, lanes, and said, oh, you see, for 100 years ago that was German parliament there, yeah, and that's fine. I can open the city for it, but I don't need to be responsible for that. There's after the big history after the war. Now I can live there in Poland. So for me there is a kind of responsibility.
But that is,
if I try to convince the German people, I am a victim. I should live in Lviv now. The Lviv was Polish city. It's not true. The Lviv was. Rusz Halicka, I don't know, like we can say it in English. Yeah, there wasn't originally Polish, there wasn't originally Ukrainian, there wasn't originally Ostrach city. No, there wasn't. There was they belonged to other state who is not existing now. Yeah, and how we can decide about these things? Yeah, so there is a country who is not on the map at the moment, and in the same way, the things about the responsibility is about the trying to be victim or trying to be aggressive. Yeah. So if the German from the Szczecin and the Poland person from the Szczecin meet each other and try to convince themselves, I am the victim. I need to leave my Vilnius or Lithuania or Lviv, and go there to this destroyed city afterward, and we rebuild it. We rebuild it. We are the victims. And the Germans say, no, I am a victim. I am a victim. I lived there. My family lived there for the centuries. And after one war, I need to go back from there. And there is a lot of places.
But Krzysiek, is actually what letting go is the way out? Is that you need to let go?
I think they're letting go and they're taking responsibility for it. So I take the responsibility that I live in the city who have a complicated history, complicated structure. And I don't will be angry if somebody said, that was my city and he is a German. Yeah, that was.
But one observation that I've got is that, you talk about this from the emotional perspective. But let's not forget that there are certain lands that are rich in natural resources. That very often, the ownership means having certain possessions, and it basically translates on certain very, very tangible consequences. I'm thinking about Crimea now. What should Ukraine say about Crimea? It's like, okay, should we let go or not? Because it means access to the sea. It means a lot economically, and not just emotionally. That okay, I lived in Sevastopol, and now I well, I may basically relocate, right? It's
No,
like,
no,
you know,
but you have a choice. The same thing was in the Gdańsk also. We had the same history issue, and a lot of people didn't want to get this perspective. The Gdańsk is very good example, because a lot of people didn't know or didn't remember that in Gdańsk in that time live 75% of Germans, and if they will be free elections, because that was League of Nations mandatory, and that League of Nations mandatory, the plan was there that in some time, maybe in 40s, maybe in 50s, there will be elections, and the people decided if they want to belong to German or if they belong to Polish. In the normal democratic way, the Gdańsk will be was I don't know how you can say that. To the German, because the people living there was almost in 75%. That was a German people, but for Poland that was scenario who we cannot accept it. We never accept that. In the same way, the Vilnius was a very, very good example. The Vilnius is a historical capital of the Lithuania. There's no doubt about it. Yeah. In the 1920, the Vilnius go to the Lithuania, of course, because it's the new state of Lithuania, and the Vilnius was there. What the Polish made that in that way, that was something like the Żelgowski rebellion. So one of the most the closest friends of the Piłsudski take his troops and made some manipulation and said, I'm independent person, I take my soldiers and go to the Vilno, because Vilno cannot be Lithuania. They took the Vilno, they said to the world, now it's a middle Lithuania, new country, middle Lithuania. Because 97% of the people who living in the Vilnius, that was a Polish people. But historical, the Vilno was Lithuanian, no doubt about it. Yeah, and what we do after 1 year of where the state was on the map, the Żelgowski go to the Poland and said, my people from the middle Lithuania ask you, take us help. We made the hybrid war before there was in Ukraine and there was in the other parties of the things, and how we can decide that was good or not good, the Vilnius was Polish or not. There is also always, the history is always emotional thing, because there is no clear points who can take the checklist and said that country is that city is belong to this country, and that city is belong to this country. You cannot do that. You don't have a clear information, clear checklist. You can check it and okay, the Crimea is the Crimea should be independent, by the way, and the Tatarians need to go there. Yeah, why? Because they took the part of the Europe in, I don't know, 13th or 14th century. Yeah, who the Crimea was? Of course. Now we live in different perspective. We live in about the international agreements with the countries, and there is and cannot be that situation where the one country go to attack the different country, because he said, okay, we give the Crimea in the 50s of 20th century, the Khrushchevs made that, right? And to the Ukrainian Soviet Republic, and he decides the Crimea will be the Ukrainian Soviet Republic. And after this, when the Soviet Union was broken, the Crimea was in Ukraine. So the agreement about this country said, okay, we decide the Crimea is now in Ukraine. And there is no way to say, no, we think that in the 20 years after, because before, but now we change we change our minds. Yeah, it cannot work in that way. And there is for me, it's a no explanation of that behavior. It's only power. Yeah. So, but in the same way, the power is also emotion. There's not logical things that we can say, okay, we made a mistake, the Crimea should be a Russian republic. No,
there's and again, if you add another layer to it, that is politics, right? It becomes basically unsolvable. Krzysiek, I'm watching the clock. Unfortunately, we have to stop this fascinating conversation with you. And there's no time to ask about your wife, and everything. And I remember, but maybe next time, because I remember one beautiful blog entry I think that you made. But that is maybe for the next time. I want to say big thank you for being here and for inspiring, I think, me. I know, Masha, if you the same, if our listeners the same, inspiring us basically to read history the way you do it, the way you understand it, the way you look at it, and not just dry facts, but there is absolutely more to it, and it's fascinating. The fact that history, like you said, approaches psychology more than mathematics, right? But both are sciences, right? So it's really interesting. All right, Masha, do you know how to find us online?
It's impossible. You have to leave us a voicemail if you want to find. I think if this episode will not generate, lots of comments and voicemails, then I don't know which one will, because exactly. I hope people will disagree with, a lot of things. I wanted to say we said, but you said here, and they will leave voicemails and comments because no, we don't agree. So
no, that's
I'm absolutely for that movie.
All right. So before we say bye, I just want to remind everybody that TOL podcast is our website. All the necessary information are there. Krzysiek, I know you started a new podcast recently, but it's in Polish, right?
Unfortunately, but I have the same idea that maybe we should join our forces and try to make that in English also. So
yeah, that'd be nice. That'd be nice. I think there aren't many channels or podcasts about history from our part of the world. So it's really interesting. All right. Okay. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Masha,
much.
it's over to you.
Yeah, this was another episode of the Thinking Out Loud podcast. Stay tuned for the next one. Bye, everyone.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.